Did you know that the mere presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of fatal harm for women by 500%? Also, victims who have experienced non-fatal strangulation are more likely to lose their lives at the hands of their partner later. Today, I want to talk about a tough but necessary topic: domestic violence, and more specifically, 12 factors that, if present, can drastically increase the chances of a fatal outcome. It's heartbreaking how often after a tragedy, loved ones say, "I wish I had known it was coming," but the truth is there are clear warning signs, and this isn't just talk, it's backed by research. I'm Darina, a practicing therapist in Australia. Let's get started. Firstly, let's dive into a sobering statistics. 34% of women who lost their lives were harmed by an intimate partner, which is 1 in 3. Even more alarming, 76% of women and 56% of men who were victims of homicide were harmed by someone they knew. So in this video, I'll walk you through what those 12 factors are so you can be more aware. And factor 1 that greatly heightens the risk of homicide in domestic violence is access to firearms or weapons. As said, research shows that the presence of a gun increases the likelihood of a domestic violence incident turning deadly by 500%. Why is this the case? If we look at the psychological portrait of a typical perpetrator, it's usually someone with antisocial personality tendencies, and one of the biggest traits of such people is an inability to control impulses. Simply put, they act very quickly, impulsively, without thinking. And if weapons are around, there is a high chance they'll use them to inflict serious harm. In some cases, they may just try to intimidate with it, but in most cases, an already volatile situation escalates in seconds, unfortunately ending tragically. And factor 2, which raises the likelihood of lethal outcomes in domestic violence cases, is previous episodes of strangulation. Non-fatal strangulation is a critical predictor of future fatal violence. Victims who have experienced strangulation are 7 times more likely to face fatal harm from their intimate partner later. The psychological profile of someone who resorts to strangulation, even applying slight pressure on the neck, often reveals deep-seated control issues and the tendency to assert power. Strangulation stands out among violent acts because it represents an intimate, personal form of dominance, symbolizing the partner's perceived absolute control over the victim and crossing into life-threatening behavior. Experts emphasize that even minor or seemingly light touches around the neck should be considered early warning signs of potential domestic violence escalation. Psychological assessments link this behavior with extreme possessiveness, a need for total control, and a lack of empathy, traits that often lead to increasingly severe harm. Separation or plans to leave is another contributing factor that can lead to fatal escalations in domestic violence. The period surrounding separation is often the most dangerous time for a victim. Perpetrators view the victim's departure as a loss of control, which can trigger severe violence. Studies confirm that the risk of fatal harm rises substantially during this phase, as the perpetrator may react with extreme measures to regain power or prevent the victim from leaving. That's why it is recommended, if you are in such a relationship, not to declare that you are about to leave, but instead to prepare discreetly by arranging a safe place, stashing some savings, and building a reliable support network. And factor 4 is threats of fatal harm. Direct threats made by a partner to end their significant other's life are among the strongest indicators of potential future fatality. Such threats reveal the perpetrator's willingness to escalate violence to the most extreme forms. Experts stress that when someone makes these types of threats, it reflects a mindset that devalues the partner's life and reveals a willingness to follow through. As a result, these indicators should be taken extremely seriously as they frequently precede actual violent acts. Jealousy and controlling behavior is factor 5, which heightens the probability of a lethal incident in domestic violence cases. And here, many women make the huge mistake, thinking this is just a sign that their partner loves them way too much. But no, excessive jealousy and controlling behavior often signal dangerous levels of possessiveness and entitlement. Perpetrators who display these traits may attempt to isolate their partner and exert dominance in all aspects of their life. This type of behavior is a clear precursor to severe harm, as it demonstrates the individual's belief that they have the right to control the partner's life and actions. Just let it sink for a moment. One person thinks that they own another person, even though slavery was abolished over a century ago globally. Another serious indicator that a domestic violence situation might lead to fatal consequences is stalking. And here comes once again the misguided notion from romantic movies that makes us believe stalking is a sign of great love. Statements like "I'll never let you go" or "you're mine forever" have nothing to do with love, but rather reflect a mindset of ownership and unwillingness to release control. Persistent stalking indicates obsession, which can lead to fatal outcomes, often ending with "if I can't have you, no one will." And factor 7 is recent escalation of violence. An increase in the severity or frequency of physical aggression is a strong indicator that the perpetrator is becoming more dangerous. Escalating violence shows that the individual is willing to cross new boundaries as tolerance grows, and what seemed outrageous years ago now feels normal. So they feel the need to increase the degree of violence, making it more likely that future altercations could become fatal. This pattern highlights the importance of intervention before violence reaches its peak. And factor 8, sexual violence. The presence of sexual coercion within a harmful relationship reflects a belief by the perpetrator that they have total control over their partner's body. This behavior often coexists with other forms of physical and emotional aggression. Research connects sexual violence to a higher risk of lethality, as it signals a sense of ownership and willingness to exert control by any means necessary. And factor 9 that greatly heightens the risk of fatality in domestic violence is pregnancy or new birth. And that's another common misconception women have, thinking that a new child will soften their partner and make them appreciate them more. When asked why they gave another child to someone who repeatedly hurting them, many women say, "I thought he would change." In reality, pregnancy and the period following childbirth can trigger an increase in violence, as the individual may feel threatened by the shift in attention to the child. They may feel jealous of the attention and care that the baby receives, viewing it as a competition for affection, which could trigger resentment and subsequent aggression. Moreover, the arrival of a child can introduce new stresses such as financial strain, sleep deprivation, and increased responsibilities. So people with poor coping mechanisms or impulse control may react aggressively to these added pressures. And factor 10 is unemployment or financial stress. Economic hardship, particularly unemployment, is linked to an increased risk of domestic violence. Individuals experiencing financial stress may feel a diminished sense of power or worth, which can result in outbursts of aggression. The added stress and frustration can push an already volatile individual to escalate their behavior, making situations more dangerous. Factor 11 is history of domestic aggression. Research has shown that past behavior is one of the best predictors of future actions. If someone has a history of aggression, it's highly likely they will continue or intensify it. This behavior adds to their psychological profile. Simply put, because they once acted violently, it means they're capable of doing it again, often with increased tolerance. Of course, if they didn't go through special programs or if it hasn't been addressed with a therapist. Forced isolation is factor 12, which heightens the probability of a lethal incident in domestic violence cases. Where a partner isolates the other from friends, family, or support networks, it increases the risk of severe harm. Technically, if someone has no one to confide in, the controlling partner feels all powerful. They don't face any consequences and can impose their will however they choose, often resulting in tragedy. And factor 13 that drastically increase chances for domestic violence to escalate and end up tragically is substance abuse. Why is this a risk? Because drugs and alcohol affect the brain's frontal cortex, responsible for higher cognitive functions like decision making, impulse control, and social behavior. When alcohol or drugs are consumed, they inhibit this part of the brain, leading to reduced self-control, poor judgment, and increased impulsivity. This impairment makes individuals more prone to risk-taking and aggressive behavior because their ability to process the consequences of their action is diminished. When intoxication is combined with an already aggressive personality, it becomes a dangerous mix. The risk of things spiraling out of control and leading to tragic outcomes goes up significantly. Send this video to someone who you think might need it right now. If you want to know more about types of psychological violence one can experience in an intimate relationship, click here to watch this video. Look after yourself and your loved ones, and I'll see you in next videos.